Okay. Monday morning. Monday. How we doing? We're good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Feels like I should have done something else. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Sebastian. Welcome to Rim Furniture. This week we're actually having to do a bit of a pause on what we were carrying on before, which was the finger jointing. I've run out of time to get that edit together. I actually edit them weekly. So today we are going to take a look at some tools because I'm actually currently doing a project which is a bathroom renovation, and I have been going backwards and forwards between the shed and this bathroom to kind of find tools that I put in different places, and I kind of forget sometimes that I even have them. So I thought it might be a good idea to actually take a look at some of the tools that I use a lot, a medium amount, and probably not so much, or I kind of wish I didn't use them. Anyway, I'll explain as I go. Let's jump right in. The first thing that we're going to take a look at are impact drivers, I guess, or drills. I have three here. I've got this impact driver, a Makita impact driver. I use this out of all my tools. This gets used most often. It is a very hard-working tool. It has done a lot of drilling, screw driving, and my partner did actually say, "Is it a screw?" Because I said fastener, and she wanted me to say fastener. I'll say that again, actually, that was incorrect. She wanted me to say screw, and I wanted to say fastener. But anyway, that's an impact driver. It's essentially putting a screw in, but it's also for other things, like you can get drill attachments and you can get other type of attachments for it. But essentially it is to use a hammering action and a circular motion to get a fastener or screw in or out, or a drill bit, or whichever you want to try. A drill, on the other hand, even though it does exactly the same thing, it doesn't have that hammer action. In fact, it does have a hammer action. Most drills have a... Oh, I can't even move this. My wrists are really sore because of the work that I've been doing, because I'm weak and I need a lot more strength. So this drill has a little thing there. I'll show you as a close-up. It is a little hammer, and it just means that it's actually vibrating a lot more. I never put it on that. I just leave it on the drill because I very rarely use this to put screws in. And if I am cutting through concrete, which is what that's for, then I set it and set it back again. Now, as I was looking for things, I found this old drill. This is my old drill. I got this for my 40th from my very, very best friend, Brendan. He bought me this. It was like the best present that I'd ever got prior to that point. Now, well, unfortunately, my wrist, the clutch died on it, and of course the batteries are now flat. But when I found it the other day, I thought I might just bring this back into service. I'll get a new chuck put on there and get this back up and running, because this is quite a good drill. It is a 14.4 volt drill though, so finding batteries for this could be a bit tricky. So that's probably the first tool that I use the most, the impact driver. One thing while we're at it, actually, I've noticed that I haven't been able to get the subscriber numbers up. I'm kind of stuck. I reached 58, I reached 58 a couple of months ago, and I've only gained 4 subscribers. So how do I gain more? Maybe you could subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and then those numbers go up. But if you don't want to subscribe, how about you give this video a little bit of a like? Thank you very much. The second tool that I used the most is actually a measuring tape. I have 2 measuring tapes here. This one I used for the swing, and of course it's now got tons and tons of yucky stuff in it, so it's quite hard to use. So I use that one, but the other day I picked up this one because I'm working on this new project, and of course I need a better one than this. I've actually got about 6 tape measures. I have one in each car. We have 2 cars, so I have one in each car. I have one in the kitchen and one in the bedroom. And then there's an assortment of small ones. So I generally get tape measures that are well built, I guess. Expensive, maybe, is probably the word to use. This one's a lot better than this one. This one is your standard tape measure. You pull the tape measure out and then you push this down and then it holds. Whereas this one here, you just pull it out and it holds automatically, and then if you want to retract it, you just push the button. I like these a lot better, which is why I bought this one. These tape measures, and having tape measures, is really important for me personally, because I do a lot of measurements, and in the planning stage, sometimes you just have an idea and you go, oh, how big is that thing? And you just really want to measure it, and I can't have rulers everywhere. Rulers, especially if you want to measure a long distance, you need a long ruler. So definitely I use tape measures very, very often. And I would suggest to you, if you were doing any sort of DIY, buy a lot of tape measures. Put them everywhere. Well, not everywhere, like don't fill a room with tape measures, but buy 4 or 5 of them, and don't buy the cheap ones. Buy slightly more expensive ones and put them everywhere so you always have one. Because sometimes you're really tempted, oh, I don't need to measure it. You don't measure it and something goes wrong. And if you're cutting materials that you have a fixed amount or it's too difficult to replace, then it's generally better to just measure them. The last most useful tool is actually quite a simple tool. It's a pencil, but specifically it's this type of pencil. So this pencil I've talked about probably many times. You clip onto your pocket. I've got pockets on here, but you clip onto your pocket and you can just pull it out, and integrated into the thing is the sharpener, and of course it's a retractable retractable lid. I also have this one here, which is actually a little bit harder to push in and take out, but I found out the other day, I've actually got some gum on there, you can just drop it in there and it holds. So very, very similar. I've got replacement leads for those. I also have this type, which is really good. It's actually a marker, and it's got a long tip so you can stick it in like holes and then do marks. It's also a fine tip. Then I have specific markers for working on wood. These don't dry out, or don't dry out as much, and so I have quite a few of these. And then I have quite a few just standard builder's pencils, these little ones. The reason I was told why these are flat is so that when you put it on a surface it doesn't roll. I don't know whether that is the reason. So those are definitely the most used tools that I have. Now we'll move on to the tools that I don't use as much, but are very, very helpful. And I'd have to say one of the most helpful tools is some form of clamp. I have this clamp, I have this type of clamp, and then I have your standard F clamps. So these are helpful. And a lot of the times I actually unfortunately don't reach for them because I think, oh, there's no point. But then I'm trying to screw something into something, and if I just clamp it, I'm not going to have any problems. Having an assortment of sizes of clamps is also important, because sometimes you just need a small one, sometimes you need a slightly longer one. I also have, I think they're called bar clamps or pipe clamps. I don't have like a huge wall of clamps because I don't do a lot of glue ups. I generally use my clamps to clamp 2 pieces of wood together so I can screw them or attach them. But having a variety of clamps is quite helpful. Those gun clamps, these types of things here, they have a fixed amount of pressure. It'll break my hand if I try to do that, but it has a fixed amount of pressure, and then once you reach that pressure, you basically can't go any further. And you can just keep going like this, but it won't go any further. It's quite safe in that sense. You may not break the thing that you're clamping. Whereas these type of clamps, even though they have actually a smaller amount of movement, you can get so much more pressure with these than you do with those. I also avoid F clamps and G clamps. F clamps, trying to spin on those things, and I know other clamp manufacturers have different ways of holding that clamp, but I still find it's too difficult and it kind of hurts. I'm a wimp. So they are clamps. I also have locking pliers. So that would be the second most useful, middle of the road useful tools. Locking pliers, I originally had these ones. I bought these quite a number of years ago. These are chrome vanadium, so they don't rust, or they don't rust anywhere near as much. And they're pretty good because you can obviously set the distance and you can get it around a pipe, and and they've got quite a long handle, so you can kind of move them. The problem with them is that it's very hard to use one-handed. Sometimes you just, like, if you're trying to get it in place, it can get a little bit difficult, and you're generally using these tools in quite difficult places. So having a mechanism that helps getting it in the right place is better than just having it swing loose. I used to have an older pair of these, and the screw, this little joint here, gets really loose. This one's actually starting to get loose now, and that means that it is easier to slide, but it means that if you get it a little bit out of that slot, it can actually just slide all the way out, which is a bit annoying. These, however, don't change. Sorry, they do change. It's got a little button here, so you can move it up and down, and then it essentially stays in that place. Sorry, it doesn't get any wider. But you can, and I didn't realize this little tool right now, you can actually make it smaller, which is good. I probably wouldn't be able to do that because I'm generally holding something like this, right, and holding that, and I'm trying to do that. So I can't really move that with one hand. I need two hands. But the cool thing about them is that it is a lot easier to change the distance, and they stay at that distance. They don't swing out. It's not going to move when I swing it. Maybe I'm just getting that completely wrong. On to the last set of tools that I guess in some ways I either regret buying them, or they haven't really done what I needed to, or I don't feel comfortable using them. So the first thing I'm going to show you is actually something for an impact wrench. This is a depth setter for screws, and this is mainly for drywall. I've got drywall down here. Here's the piece of drywall that I prepared earlier. I went to the factory and bought this. No, I didn't. So basically you get your screw in here, but what you really want to do with drywall is to make sure that the screw doesn't break the surface of this paper. This is green because it's slightly rot resistant. So you don't want to pierce this green paper that's on the top of it. You basically just want to have the paper be compressed enough and push the drywall against the stud. So this is supposedly really good for doing that. It's got a non-marring tip on the top, so that spins when you're drilling, so you don't end up getting like a circle. But unfortunately, it literally does not work. I have tried many times to try and get it to work, and I haven't. I actually turned up at a job once with it, saying, just like going, this is amazing, this is an amazing tool, everyone should buy them, should use them. And then I got asked to do a demonstration with it. They just put in some drywall. I got a screw, put it in there, drilled it in. It left a big dark mark on there because it's not that great. and it completely went straight through the drywall. I adjusted the setting, did it again, couldn't get it right. I actually did it about 4 or 5 times, and no matter what I did, I just couldn't get it to work properly. And like I said, I've tried this many times, and I have tried it just more recently, which is why I've got all this drywall. So this, I think this was like $40 New Zealand. Not the best tool. It didn't work. I guess other people have far better experience using these and love them. I personally do not. The second tool that, and I say tool, it's a bit of a broad term, are unfortunately one of the more clothing accessory types of tools. So tool belts. This is just for a hammer. This is for a small amount of stuff. You may have seen me wearing this, or in the future at least you will see me wearing this. And then it's got the hammer holder in there as well, plus a variety of different pockets, and then one big pocket, and then of course the clip for your measuring tape, and then of course there's this one which has that many more options for putting things in. Now this I have never used. I have had it for about a year. I've done quite a lot of projects in between. I love this idea. I thought that this was going to be worthwhile because I had bought this one a couple of years ago, and it was really good for working outside and building things. I built a shed, so it was really good. But I thought sometimes I'm just lacking quite a bit of options. So why not go for this? I just realized it's got this thing on the back. Oh, it's like a little thing. I thought maybe you put your belt in there. But the main problem is that it sits really high. And of course, as you're moving around, it's just like right there. Maybe you like that as a tool belt. I personally don't. I like them further down, and I generally like them further around the back. Anyway, so I've never used this. I'm ashamed to say that I've never used it, considering how much it cost. It was like, well, it was more than the amount of use that I've got out of it. This I still use. I use infrequently. I just wish it had more pockets. The measuring tape clip is really annoying because it's always difficult to get in and out. If you just keep doing it, it will wear out and it'll work properly. I've used it a lot. It still hasn't worn out. They build them really well. I mean, they're well-made things. This I like because it is actually just a clip-on. But I kind of wish that it would actually take a different type of tool instead of this. And you can actually buy other ones, but I haven't. The last tool, and again, I'm stretching that word tool, is something that I'm actually afraid of using more than anything else. And I go to quite great precautions to use it. It's actually an accelerator. So obviously with super glue, I can never pronounce cryoacrylate. Cryoacrylate, basically your super glue, put that on whatever you're trying to bond together, and then you give this a bit of a spray and it makes it go quicker. Makes the thing go quicker. There's a couple of problems though. It does actually weaken the bond, and I thought, okay, it's probably going to weaken it a small amount, but it actually weakens it quite a bit. I couldn't tell you the percentage, but it does, and it even says here, acceleration can influence overall strength of adhesion bond in some situations. Use sparingly. Over acceleration can cause heat buildup. I didn't realize that. So that does have that problem. The second problem of it, which is probably the thing that I get more frightened of, is the toxicity of it. Thank you, System of a Down. Toxicity, because I think it's got toluene in it. I've said that before. It might not actually have toluene in it. Naphtha, dithimethyl, yeah, it's basically got some pretty harsh chemicals. And because it stinks, it's so pungent and it's so pervasive that if I go outside and I close the door and I spray, and then I basically have to keep the door closed for a couple of hours before the smell can dissipate. It's quite heavy. And for something that you just want to, spray a small amount and then carry on work, I just never use it inside. So it becomes a little bit superfluous. I still have it because I do still use it. Sometimes I am mocking something up quickly and I just want it to glue quickly where I don't care about strength. And that's generally why I have it. Put that one away because I didn't put the rest of them away. That is it for today's video. I did this all in one take. I might have to do a few edits because it is now 10 o'clock and I have got to go and grab some lunch. I have to have an early lunch and then get back to work on the renovation, which is another multi-part series. It's actually quite a long series because I could only do small portions at a time. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week. Sorry for this being such a short video, or at least not so full of comedy. Have a wonderful week. We will see you next week where hopefully, I will continue on with the finger jointing. And then I'll pause while you decide whether you want to click on something